Hello, Aries, and welcome to this, your mid to late March reading. I'm changing things up a little bit. My camera is going to go nuts at some point, so please excuse it. I do not edit my videos. I prefer to just be real. So when the camera goes crazy, we'll just bear with it. So, Aries, let's have a look at what's going to be coming up for you March 15th through the 31st. Different energies that might be coming up. There has been some pretty significant energies, like really strong energies coming up. If you have a lot of any of the other signs in your chart, I encourage you to watch some of the other signs as well. This reading is intended for anyone born under the sign of Aries and anyone else who has a significant amount of Aries in their charts. So first of all, we're going to be looking at where you're at now. We're going to have a look at what you're focusing on, good or bad. We're going to have a look at some of your difficult influences coming in for the last half of the month. We're going to look at, I pull a card that's just referred to as "this makes sense." And that particular card helps to kind of start to tie things together. There's usually some pretty interesting things there. We're going to pull a card for unexpected insights as well as an outcome card. Okay. This is a general reading. There are a lot of Aries out there, so none of this is intended as specific gospel advice to an individual. I encourage everyone to tap into their own heart center and make decisions that are right for them specifically. Okay. Let me tap into the energy of Aries, and we are going to start with a card for you now. Where are you now? Interesting. I'm getting called over there, but I'm seeing a different deck in my mind's eye. Now, I do work with several different decks. I don't pull everything from one deck. I find that that doesn't resonate with a lot of people. So let me tap back in. All right. Let's see where Aries is at now. Aries now. So this first card that I'm going to be pulling, okay, I guess I'm not actually pulling the card. I'm going to be picking it up off the floor. This first card that I am picking up off the floor for you, it is a card for you now. In other words, you right now in the middle of March. I do leave all of the cards face down until I'm actually ready to read them. And that way I find that there's a better flow rather than me jumping ahead if there's a card that really stands out. We're going to pull a card for what are you focusing on for the last half of March, Aries? What are the Aries focusing on last half of March? All right, we didn't have anything come out. Let's try again. What are the Aries focusing on? Oh, we got one. Okay. And two. Is there anything else? And oh, 3, 4. All right. All right, I'm going to put these in the order in which they came out so that we will read them in the correct order. All right, there are some noises that are coming up in the background. Not sure if my microphone's picking them up. There's a couple of dogs barking and a very loud motorcycle just went by, so I do apologize. Okay, let's have a look at your difficult influences coming up for the last half of March. I'm getting called towards this deck, like purple cards. Difficult influences for Aries. Difficult influences. This deck always does this. It calls out and says, I want to speak, and then it decides not to. Okay, we do have one. Is there anything else that Aries has in their difficult influences for March? Anything else? Yep, there's another one. Okay. Okay, the next card that we are going to pull is going to be the card that I mentioned at the beginning. This makes sense. Getting called strongly over to this deck. What makes sense for Aries last half of March 2023? I do apologize for my voice today. I attended a conference last week, and unfortunately somebody came to the conference who had something, and whatever it was spread like wildfire to the participants, including me. Okay. Wow. Aries, you have a lot that makes sense this month. Okay. We do have a card on the floor. This was the last card that popped out, and these. Okay. Let's have a look at unexpected insights. Unexpected. What is unexpected for Aries last half of March? Oh, these cards are. That one went back in. That one didn't. Unexpected influences, unexpected insights. Okay. Okay, that was the first card that came out. Those and that one. Okay. Now the last card that I'm going to pull, or the last cards, as it has not been single cards that are popping out. The last one I'm going to pull is going to be the general overall outcome. Now, this card concentrates on the last part of the month. It's more directed for the outcome where you're going to be at come March 31st and heading into April. And I am getting called to the fairy deck again. Yeah. Anything else for the general overall outcome? I think that card wants to come out. Okay. We've got 3 cards for your general overall outcome. Okay, that one. Aries. Aries, where you are at now, Magic Guardian, unlock the magic within. This is a card indicating that you are in what might be called a spiritual awakening. You're at that point where you're realizing just how powerful you truly are. Okay. One example that I can give is, for example, coming down with something, being in contact with people who are sick. We have been taught time and time again that we need to turn to somebody outside of ourselves in order to be able to heal. Full disclosure here, I also have some points on my ears. They might be showing up in the video. I'm experiencing gallstones right now. I'm in the process of clearing those myself. I do not need a doctor in order to be able to heal. I need to go within. I need to make changes within myself. And this is what's coming up for me, for you, all of the Aries out there, that you are in the process of realizing just how magical and how powerful you truly are. Here in the middle of March, you're going, wow, I can really take control of things. Okay, let's have a look at what you are focusing on. Okay, so the first card with regards to what you are focusing on is the conditioning card. This is the number 15 card from the major arcana of the traditional tarot, and it does correspond to the devil. And what this card is actually indicating is that there has been some conditioning. You know, we always say we've got the little devil and the little angels that sit on our shoulders telling us what to do. And it's a question of who we listen to. Now, the little devil that sits on our shoulder, where does his information come from? A lot of the time, his information comes from our past learning, from our conditioning, from the institutes that teach us our whole life, whether that be religious institutions, educational institutions, our parents, our grandparents, families, excuse me. And so one of the things that you're focusing on right now is, do I listen to the little devil or do I listen to the angel and begin to walk my own path? And you're looking, this makes perfect sense, because if you're at the point where you're awakening your magical guardian, if you are at the point where you're going, wow, I'm a pretty powerful being, then it makes sense that you're also focusing on your conditioning, because you're beginning to question it, questioning everything. That's one of the things that this card represents. Now, this card can also represent karma. Okay, so keep that in mind, Aries, for the last half of March. I mean, okay, 24/7, 365, we should always be living our lives in a good way, so as not to invoke karma into our lives. But in particular, when this card comes up, definitely keep karma in mind, okay? You also have the go with the flow card here. This card corresponds to the Ace of Cups in the traditional tarot. So this is a card of new beginnings. And again, this card makes perfect sense for what you're focusing on, because as the magic awakens within you, and you begin to explore, does my conditioning make sense? Does what all of those institutions have, what they've taught me, does that resonate with me anymore? And so you have the Ace of Cups coming up, which is go with the flow card, but it is also a card of new beginnings. Anytime we see an ace in tarot, it's an indication that something new is starting for you. And predominantly with the cups coming up, it can indicate the possibility of some new relationships forming. Not uncommon when we have a spiritual awakening and we're looking at our magic and we're questioning all of our conditioning. It's not uncommon for new people to come in, for new relationships to develop who are in alignment with what we're learning about ourselves. You do have the Six of Swords that has come up here. And this is a card of burdens. This actually makes sense in all of this as well, because as you look at your conditioning, you're going to look at the burdens that you've been carrying, right? You've been doing certain things certain ways because they've always been done that way, because you were conditioned to do things that way. And yet those things are going to begin to feel like burdens here going into the last half of March for you, Aries. And so I encourage you to really explore the burdens that you're carrying. Dig deep. Burdens can be just being tied to doing things a certain way. The final card that you have in your focus here is actually a really beautiful card. It's New Vision. Okay. Again, this is a card of new beginnings. And so you've got a double new beginnings that you're focusing on here going into late March. Let's have a look at what came up for your difficult influences. Okay. Difficult influences. You got wise leader. You are a beacon for others. And this tells me that as you are experiencing this spiritual awakening, Aries, you are actually beginning to take a back seat rather than being the leader that you truly are. You are stepping back. This is one of your difficult influences, and you're being encouraged to step out. Now, you might not be ready. Maybe the reason this is coming up in your difficult influences is because the timing's not right. You are still in the process of awakening, and looking at that new vision. You're still in the process of carrying around the burden of the conditioning that you have. And so perhaps the reason this card is in your, whoops, I dropped a card here. Perhaps the reason the wise leader is in your difficult influences because you're just not in that place to actually step into a leadership role. Sorry, my chair is not rolling here. So yeah, makes sense. Uncovering treasure. Beneath the surface lies great bounty. This card coming up in your difficult influences also makes sense. It's an indication that perhaps you're not digging deeply enough into the soft, squishy parts, so to speak. When we begin a spiritual awakening, when we begin on a path down something different from the way that we've been living our lives, our whole lives, sometimes it's hard to dig into those deeper levels of everything. So Aries, I encourage you to have a look at this as your difficult influence and begin to really, really kind of dig down and see what else is there. And you've got breaking trail, a breakthrough is at hand. Again, this card coming up in your difficult influence is indicating that the time for this sort of full-on breakout and for you to be this wise leader is just not there yet, because you don't feel confident enough yet in your spiritual and magical awakening that's happening. And that makes sense, and that's okay. Everybody needs to process and go through their spiritual awakening in their own time, right? It's not something that can be rushed. This makes sense, son. Yes, faith. This makes sense, right? You have to have faith in the process of what's happening for you right now. You have to truly believe that you are meant to let go of all of the conditioning that you've received over the years since you were born. The desert makes sense and ties all of this together because you are thirsting for more. You're thirsting for more knowledge. You're thirsting for more growth. You are seeking that and you are looking for that. Interestingly, you have two cards that came up in reverse, so I will read them that way. One of them is the river, which is about going with the flow, and the other one is fire and intensity. This is an indication that you may be struggling with the ability to go with the flow with any kind of intensity, right? So as something new comes into you, you're questioning it, which is beautiful. That's what you are intended to do right now based on these cards. And yet, as you question it, there isn't that intensity to reach out and seek more. However, the final card in your This Makes Sense group of cards here is the Rain and Renewal card, okay? And just the same way, this card has very, very similar meaning to the New Vision card, okay? This is part of what you are focusing on. Renewing, recreating yourself, letting go of the past. This is what you are working on right now. Unexpected insights. This is awesome. You have another ace that's come up. I'll get to that in just a minute. So you do have the Two of Winter, also the equivalent to the Two of Swords. And the meaning of this card is that there is some kind of indecision. You feel like you're being pulled in two different directions. Well, guess what? You are. With the Devil card, remember what I said? You've got the little angel and the little devil sitting on your shoulders, and you're questioning which one you're supposed to listen to. And you're exploring, hey, where did the devil get his information from? You know, this little guy that's telling me what I'm supposed to do. Right? And so this Two of Swords card is saying you've got this duality going on. That's really what, anytime you see a two in the tarot, you've got a duality, but in particular and more strongly is the Two of Swords. You know, it's about making choices, and it's about feeling trapped almost. So this is what's coming up for you for the last half of March. Not unexpected, but interestingly, you also have the King of Winter, which is the King of Swords. And this card is a card of asking for help and asking for guidance and being a little bit humble in what you're doing. But it's also a sign, because you have both the Two of Winter leading into the King of Winter, it's showing that there is growth that is happening for you during the last half of March, which is the intended timing for this reading. Okay. You have the Ace of Spring, also known as the Ace of Wands. Yet again, another new beginning for you. The wands, or the spring, as it's represented in this particular deck, is under the element of fire, which is about taking action, right? If you walk across hot coals, you're going to want to take action and run and move forward. So this card is indicating that there are new beginnings coming for you. And when those new beginnings cross your path, you need to jump on them, Aries. So as much as these cards are indicating that, perhaps you're feeling like you're not quite ready to step into or jump into this role, this new role of being this magical guardian, this card is indicating that when the timing is right, you are going to need to jump. You, as the final card in your unexpected insights, is the Seven of Spring, also known as the Seven of Wands. And this is a card of being assertive. Don't back down. Okay. Again, it's part of the element of fire. It's about taking action. It's about standing up for yourself. Okay. Let's have a look at your overall outcome. And these cards are intended for, wow, these cards are intended for the end of March going into April. You've got the Four of Autumn, also known as the Four of Pentacles. This is a heads up and a warning to manage your finances wisely. Pay attention to how much is going out versus how much is going in. Perhaps sit down and do a budget by the end of March. As I've mentioned before, and for quite some time now, March and April of 2023 is the time of a huge shift in our financial systems. And so this is a card indicating that, you know what, you're going to be affected too. A lot of us, as these big changes are happening, would like to believe that it's happening to someone else. It's not happening to me. And this card, Aries, is indicating that, you know what, it could happen to you as well. So manage that balance. You've got the Seven of Winter, interesting in your outcome. Now, remember, you had the King of Winter as well as the Two of Winter. You've got the Seven of Winter here, which is an indication that you need to kind of dig a little bit deeper in things that you're doing, not run away from the truth. Okay, so as you're doing all of this other exploration and this other spiritual growth throughout the last half of March, Aries, this is an indication that when you get to the end of March, you're going to be tempted to run away from the truth. You're going to have this awakening. And from experience, this is just kind of a side thing, but from experience, I can tell you that once the door to this magical guardian opens, there is no going back. You can try. You can try over and over again. And yet that door never really closes ever again. Okay. And so this is telling me you might be tempted to try and step back from this awakening that you're having, but that's probably fear and it's temporary. The last card that you have is the Star. This is a card of believe in yourself. You have the power to move mountains. Good things are coming in for you. Look to the future with hope and optimism. And that's really beautiful because both the beginning and the end of your reading are with cards of hope and optimism and, happiness and all of those wonderful things. So thank you so much for joining me here, Aries. Please join me again at the beginning of April for your next reading. I hope this resonated with you. I would love it if you would leave me a comment and let me know what you liked or what you disliked. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you.